point that last month that, I think are we ready to start?
We're ready to start.
Oh, mercy.
We'll call the meeting to order.
Sorry about that.
June 2nd, Parks Commission. And first order of business is approval of our minutes, and I'm looking for a motion to approve.
I will motion to approve the minutes.
A second?
I'll second.
I will note that Scott and I did 2 rounds of editing on the minutes in this short holiday week, and the version that we would be approving, that I'm motioning to approve, is what is in the packet.
Okay.
Patrick.
And I just want to know, is this agreeable with everybody, the process that Scott and I have been doing? And certainly anybody else is free to contribute any revisions or such as, when they are draft minutes. It's subject to review and changes by anybody.
Anybody have additional comments, corrections, notes about the minutes?
I do also, mostly I look for readability, and there's only a few words that I changed in at this time. Spelling, grammar, punctuation, that kind of thing, so as not to change the general report that Scott has written up. I don't go back and watch the video to verify everyone's vote. I watch for my own vote. We usually pass pretty much everything that comes before us anyway. I do specifically check that everybody's name is spelled correctly, but that's as far as I go then. So, everybody else is free to check it for whatever they like and make sure their name is right.
All right, well, thank you. And so all those in favor of approving the minutes as in the packet?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Our public appearances for non-agenda items, we have none. So next we will review and approve the agenda. A motion to approve the agenda as written?
I'll motion to approve the agenda
A second?
as written.
Second.
Discussion. That means me.
Go ahead.
A couple of questions, Scott, on the agenda. I noticed in the minutes from May that there were 2 things that were noted. The teen center findings, it said there would be a report in June, and then the other thing was for the Stoner Prairie Parks Plan update, it said we would see something in June. So could you give us a little update on those 2 things? They're not on our agenda, obviously. So.
Certainly, and I have not heard from the teen center representative, so I'll kind of wait until she's ready, and then she'll contact me and want to come back to the Park Commission. But the Stoner Prairie park design is still in the works, so our goal is to have that before you in July. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments about the agenda? Okay. Yeah. All right, so those in favor of approving the agenda as written?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, on we go. Action items. 5A is Resolution R 122-22, the Crescent Crossing Park Proposal Update. And we'd like a motion to approve. Do we have one?
I'll move to approve R 122-22.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, and Scott will introduce.
Yes, thank you, Sue, and certainly we have the Crescent Crossing team here, Chris and Matt and Dan. They can certainly come on up and provide a brief summary if they'd like. But before that, I did really try to make it pretty clear on what action we're looking for from the Park Commission tonight. As you know, we've got two different lots, outlots that have been discussing. One of them is Outlot 7, which Crescent Crossing team is looking to propose that as a pocket park. And then a portion of Outlot 11, they're proposing as a neighborhood dog playground. And I know there has been some discussion about the neighborhood dog playground, which I'm sure the team would be able to respond to any questions that you may have. But at the end of the day, we're really looking for a general, a general approval of the two different outlots, and with that, we'll continue to work through the details. I will tell you that there has been a discussion with some of the alders regarding the dog playground. So we really, before we get too far into that one, we want to get an affirmation from the council, which will happen on the 14th, that they're good with that and that we continue to work on that. So I think with that, if you guys wanted to add anything, or if there's any questions, we can go that way.
Any questions? Let's start with that. Any questions since last time? Parking was the one question. We dove back into that. And any guesses how many parking spots are at Sunnyside? The big dog park? 16, right?
Was that the right number, Matt?
21 total.
Oh,
Yeah,
21.
21.
Very good, Pat. That was
All
good.
right.
That was my question. Oh, okay. I mean, good. So we, and what did we come up with for street parking? We came up
Right,
with?
so just on Minong, the street on the south side, I mean, there's at least 20-some on-street parking stalls there, and that doesn't even count the streets on the east and the west side. So there's plenty of opportunity for parking on the streets and accessible then by the paths and/or sidewalks.
Correct. So we dove into that, and again, it's very comparable, and it's not nearly as big. It's more, again, classified as a dog playground because it sits on just over an acre of land, but it has fun obstacles for the dogs to partake in. So a little different, and even if it is as popular as Sunnyside, it can support the parking there that should be coming from the general public.
Sarah Schroeder.
No questions from me. I agree it's a neighborhood park and I don't have any concerns about the parking.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I saw a question there. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. Just to make sure of this, and I asked this last meeting, the dog park is owned by Crescent Crossing, and ATC has an easement to run the power lines over it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And among all of us discussing this, was there an option discussed in the past for something in the future, if it ever came to that then this dog park land could possibly be converted to city ownership as an option? I mean, it's not precluded.
Actually, that's part of the proposal, is that with this proposal is that portion of Outlot 11 would be dedicated to the public. That would be the dog playground area.
What exactly are you meaning by dedicated to the public?
Similar to any other park or stormwater basin.
Okay, it's owned privately.
Currently,
but it's
yes.
fully open to the public to use.
Currently, it's private, but through this process, it'll convert to public.
Public, yeah.
City owned?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
And then,
Kind of jumping ahead to that option.
so the easement, though, it's an easement that ATC has, it's aerial easement over the park, and it automatically renews every 50 years. And so they signed that with Dunn, I think it's 30-plus years old, so it'll come up in 2040 probably is when it's due, but they can auto-renew it. We went to them, got their approval and sign off. They're fine with the park. They like to see some kind of community use under the lines that's efficient, and there was no objection there.
And obviously, it's not suitable for other uses like houses.
Correct.
No.
This is why,
Yep.
Right.
as a park.
Retention basin or dog park, that's what we've got.
What?
A retention basin. That's, if you
Yeah.
go further down the line, you'll see Stoner Prairie put in retention basins underneath that.
And we did
power
too.
line. Yeah, we did
Our
too.
basins
For
underneath.
Crescent
Yeah, there's
Crossing.
one, there's going to be south of there.
Yeah.
their
Yep.
attention.
And a bit of additional clarification, the development would receive credit for that parkland that they would dedicate to the city. So they would receive credit for that.
Okay, and these power lines over the top are not any kind of hindrance to the Parks Department for anything foreseeable?
No.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Are we talking specifically about the dog park or about the other lot as well?
Well, we focused on the dog park, but this does include both.
Yep.
Right.
If you wanted to take the tot lot first and discuss that, and then then we could do the dog playground separately, but it is all in one resolution, if you would.
Yeah. Well, since we've started with the dog park, do we have any other questions or comments about it?
Right, I didn't want to jump to,
Okay, and no, you raised a good point, because I was thinking the most about the dog park myself. So we do also have to discuss the tot lot area, and would you like to introduce any remarks about that area?
Nothing really, pretty straightforward. That plan that we've done for there hasn't really changed over time. It's a simple open area for play, open play, active play, and then a small area for playground equipment.
Okay. Go ahead, Chris.
Just a very simple question to make sure I'm reading the plan right. Is that on the eastern side, is that a sidewalk that connects from Spark to Wildcat behind the housing lot, so that whole park is ringed by a sidewalk?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. No comment. Make sure I understood it.
Yep.
Any other questions? Concern?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Early on, especially for this tot lot here, this was, I believe, proposed as privately owned. This is going the same way as we just said for the dog park. Set up privately owned, but then transferred over to city ownership?
Correct.
Okay. Originally, though, it was proposed as privately owned and maintained by the homeowners association, all maintenance, whatever, and I think even the playground equipment was going to be provided by the homeowners association. Was that the original idea on this?
The original idea was, it was going to be private open space, owned and maintained by the association, but developed by Veridian.
Okay. So I'm kind of just wondering, from the Parks Department perspective, this here being transferred to the city pays for all of this, or gives credit to the developer for this, still a good deal?
It
No
absolutely.
reservations?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yep.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. So the resolution, referring to the notes that we have from the Parks Director, we're being asked if we generally approve of the concept of a dog playground and pocket park. So we're not, at this point, discussing equipment and any more detail than that, correct? Okay.
Is it just on kind of accepting the land, or the idea of?
The idea, yeah,
that
the
we
idea
could-
of, yeah.
And we'll continue to work on the amenities and what amenities receive credit and not credit and those kinds of things, so.
Okay.
As far as city parks, these will both be considered neighborhood parks? As far as their classification, anyway?
I would say probably they fall into the neighborhood park category, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, we've had the motion, the second, the discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks. And next, we have 5B, the Oregon Food Pantry Proposal, use of Swan Creek and Greenfield shelters. And we would ask for a motion to approve with a second. And this is not a resolution per se, but it would be, the vote is about waiving the fee.
I'll
Aye.
motion to approve.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so Scott,
In this, and I believe Diana is online, and she did approach the Park Commission, and I did include in your packet the request that the Oregon Area Food Pantry is requesting, and basically they've got some dates in June, July, and August where they wanted to serve the school district members of Oregon with a free lunch, and they're requesting the use of Swan Creek Parks and Greenfield Park Shelter for about an hour on those various days during the course of the summer. It will be, and they understand that in order to waive the fee, it needs to be a first come, first serve type of use, and they would not have exclusive use of these facilities during this hour. But they're in agreement to that, and I think with that, staff is comfortable if the Park Commission is agreeable to waive the shelter rental fees for those days. And as I mentioned, Diane's here to answer any questions that the Park Commission may have.
do we have any questions?
Yes.
Patrick, go ahead.
I had a somewhat different understanding of this. I was sort of understanding that, yes, they don't have exclusive use. In other words, they can't kick other people out who want to come sit down at a picnic table while they're doing this lunch thing. But I was sort of understanding it that they did have a reservation, which would mean they have the claim and no one else could make a reservation at that same time and boot them out. But they don't have to pay for the reservation. Is that not the way you're looking at it?
I would say that we will generate a permit for them so that they would have that hour, if you would. But that's not to say that someone else can't come in and sit down and have lunch or whatever it might be. So
Yeah,
it-
I agree with that part. It's the idea of, does this preempt anyone else from getting a reservation at the same time?
No,
That would give
no.
the other one exclusive claim, and could kick them out.
It could in theory, right. And
Well-
then they could in theory then find an open green space adjacent to the shelter or whatever it might be, so.
I have a question. I didn't think till now, so I didn't check a calendar. Are these all weekdays?
Monday, Wednesday.
Okay, right there, under my nose, that's what it says. All right, so it's not as likely that you're going to have a competing reservation compared to a weekend type of a thing. Okay, all right. Any other questions,
Yes.
Chris?
If there's an interest, is there any way that we could give them a reservation so that the time slot is blocked out, so, another party couldn't come and reserve a picnic for a birthday party or something like that?
Well, in what, like I say, what I'll do is we'll create that hour permit for them so that they'll have that. And then if we did get other customers who are interested in reserving it, then, like I say, these folks would have to maybe adjust a little bit and maybe not have that use of the shelter itself, which is really what the facility that the group would rent. But certainly if you want them to have that, that hour exclusive use or that hour at no fee, we can certainly do that. And then what would happen is if someone would call for those days, we'd say, hey, we've got the food pantry is going to be in there for, whatever time Diana needs it for, and you can certainly reserve it and all of those kinds of things, but they're going to be the primary user of it at that point in time. So we could certainly manage that.
And another question, how much space, Diana, do you really need? What do you bring in? Some coolers? Need one picnic table?
Right, that's exactly it. This is this kind of a pilot for us as far as coming into the Fitchburg area, realizing that we have students in the Fitchburg area that probably cannot access some of the sites that we have traditionally had in Oregon and Brooklyn. So this is a pilot for us. We don't know if we will have 2 children or if we'll have 30. and there's no way to determine that in advance. So we're going to show up with a cooler and 1 or 2 adults, and if we have a picnic table, that's great. If somebody moves in with a birthday party and wants the other, 6 or 7 tables or whatever you have in the shelter, we prefer to be able to say to our volunteers, you will be in a shady spot, because, often our volunteers might be like my age, and we like the shade. So, yeah, I'm thinking we're going to bring in a cooler. We'll be there about an hour, and then we pack up and go. So, that's our idea right now.
And I think to your point, Chris, if we would have someone that wanted to rent the facility, we would make them aware that, during this hour, we're going to have this group there, and then they can decide whether or not they want to work around it or not work around it. If that's what I'm hearing, is you want to make sure that they have that hour block of time so that they can distribute their food if they need to.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I don't, it sounds like they don't maybe necessarily need the entire shelter, but I just would want to make sure a party wouldn't come in and push them out, because I agree. I think they're, shade for them is probably pretty important. And as long as they could share the space and that could be communicated, I don't see any problem with that.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, that was my point, is that they could always have a table or whatever they need. Question to Scott. Shelter reservations are for the whole day. If somebody chooses a shelter, they get it for the whole day. You don't do it by blocks of time. So in other words, somebody could really want to have a party, let's say in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, and they would ask for a reservation for this shelter on this day. And it could be no conflict at all. But yeah, that's what I was thinking too, is somebody else could reserve it, but tell them for this hour, either work cooperatively.
Yeah.
You cannot kick this group out.
And
And before and after the hour, it's all yours.
And I would say typically on a Monday or a Wednesday would be more of a 3 o'clock or a 4 o'clock early evening kind of reservation at one of the shelters.
Yeah, that was another thing that I was thinking right here, is a Monday noon or a Wednesday noon
Yeah.
is unlikely to have any party at a
I
shelter. That's
would
not what
agree.
I see at any shelter. So really, this group could have figured, we'll just, take our chances and go first come, first serve. And if they have to slide over to the side or something on the rare event that somebody else has an actual reservation, they
Well,
could have gotten away with no fee anyway, is what I'm saying. So this is good of us to just waive the fee and let them
Yeah,
have
it
the
will,
hour.
and we'll give them a permit for that specific time. So we have it in our queue, and then they know it, and then if someone else comes in, they've got to work around this specific reservation.
Right, with those conditions, that's what I'm favoring.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so we are voting about the fee waiver, and those in favor of waiving the fee for the Oregon Food Pantry proposal, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much for
We'll
coming.
we'll get the permit for you, Diana. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to scroll down here to 5C. We have Resolution R 120-22, establishing criteria for the granting of special privileges for use of streets rights-of-way for terrace gardens. Now, this is discussion only for our comments, questions, etc. But Scott,
Why do you say discussion only?
I think the way I understood by reading it, they're looking for our comments. Scott, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but they're far from having any decisions about what they're going to do.
Right, this is an early stage, so it might be, I'm just suggesting that we may say, yeah, keep working on it, or something like that.
Yeah.
Rather than, we approve and all that.
Yeah, okay.
And as I think as you look at the referral sheet that I've got up there, there's a lot of different groups that are going to weigh in from the different perspectives. And I guess I did include in my comments to the agenda the one perspective that the Park Commission has that we could offer is the process. We currently have rules for community gardens with our current community gardens. We have the scheduling software and the permits and the, you know, we currently schedule plots and those kinds of things for our existing community gardens. So we would have the mechanisms or the tools to manage the process, if you would. There certainly is going to be, and even just having conversations with Anna and Healy with, you know, the terraces and those kinds of things. There's going to be some, I would suspect, some discussion at the Tree Advisory Committee, because this is really the area that the Tree Advisory works in, and I'm sure there's 30% canopy rules and, you know, excavation of land and closeness to trees and those kinds of things. So there is going to be other groups weighing in on it, but I guess I would offer from the parks perspective that we would have the processes and some rules that we could offer to the discussion.
Now, when, Scott, when we talk about, we have existing processes that staff have developed to manage our things, they may apply or, you know, obviously have to be adapted to a new situation, but is it being suggested that your staff would implement this program, or is that unknown?
I would say that we currently implement a similar type of program with our community gardens, so I think it would fit fine with what we currently do with the community gardens. So I think we'd have the processes and those kinds of things to be able to do that. That's programming or scheduling or whatever it might be.
Okay. Any, Patrick?
We don't have any motion yet.
Well, we're
Oh,
I think we're,
we could discuss it first and then decide what we want to sort of recommend or whatever.
Well, and maybe we take a first and a second and then continue to discussion.
all right, if we'd like to, sure, that's
Yeah.
fine. I
Why
have
don't
no
we do?
objection to any approach.
I kind of object. I think, you know, in the past, the Park Commission has decided that we run our meetings the way we want. And in the past, I don't see Julia on, so I'm not going to get yelled at by Julia. In the past.
She's watching though, Patrick.
Oh, I bet, yeah. She'll get me later. In the past, a lot of the times, and this was okay with past chairs, so whatever the chair wants, but in the past, we have often discussed first, see how our discussion goes, and then decide what kind of motion we want to make. So I would kind of,
That's fine with me.
yeah, I would
don't
kind of
mind-
suggest that for this.
I don't mind that at all. I only suggested at the beginning it was discussion only, just because of the way I read this, it appeared to be something that's going to go through a lot of various
Groups.
committees,
Right.
pretty uncertain.
And I just raised the question
Process.
because it
Yeah.
is in our action items, so, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
going by our categories, that's what it
Yes.
tells us.
Okay,
to do.
well, let's discuss, and I know, Patrick, you had some points you wanted to make, and everybody else should also chime in.
Add comments, yeah. Okay, I want to point out one thing. On the referral sheet, we are, I think, rather unusually, the first one to get this. And then after us, Board of Public Works next week, then RCC, then Tree Advisory, then Public Safety, Human Services, and that's all before it goes back to the council. So we might, based on whatever we feel about this, be able to kind of steer this in one way or the other, or add any comments we want. Even though we had a rather short week since this was posted and everything, I did think about this quite a bit, and I have some comments that I would like to read into the record. These are from me. I would like these noted in the minutes, word for word. You can attribute these to me, or you can group them with other people's comments and such. So I would like to read my comments into the record, and I will email these to you, Scott, so you don't have to type it all.
All right, proceed.
First, number one, city staff should not spend a lot of time on this. 2, based on the 8 pages of materials and 17 conditions already written by city staff, and probably including the city attorney, The city staff already have spent too much time on this. 3, this proposal should describe what street and property situation of having any of a curb, gutter, sidewalk is applicable and covered by this, and specify that all other situations are exempt and not covered by this, and does not apply for these rules and permit and fee and renewal criteria. 4, the 17 stated conditions already have contradictory language and confusing descriptions and situations. 5, no matter what staff think about, other unexpected situations will happen and confusion will exist. 6, all existing terrace activity uses in place as of an official starting approved date must be grandfathered in and perpetually exempt from all these program rules, permit, fee, and renewal. Program rules, permit, fee, and renewals. 7, the city needs to recognize that ordinances already require property owners to maintain the area in front of their property for this same city-owned terrace right-of-way, including mowing at owner-provided effort and time and expense. 8, ordinances already require this owner maintenance of terrace with a penalty of alternately ordering city effort to maintain their terrace and then bill the property owner for this work. 9, the city should have a full policy program of how the city maintains its terraces, such as planting grass, mowing, landscaping, etc., before inventing a new program of permits for property owner care of this city-owned terrace area. 10, the city needs to recognize the increased property values for appearance, for enhanced street view, and especially for resale value by allowing and promoting and supporting property owner effort for this city terrace area. 11, this should specify if this is for allowing flower gardens or if this is vegetable garden plots. 12, vegetable garden plots likely will be undesirable in appearance and will encourage raiding garden items by people passing by on sidewalks or street. 13, raised beds of landscape timbers up to 12 inches are not easily removable. 14, are all raised beds supposed to be removed each fall by November 15? Not mentioned, not clear. 15, plantings up to 30 inches above ground are a vision obstruction. 16, November 15 is too late since freezing temps and snow arrives earlier and October 31 is better. 17, an initial fee is one thing, but an annual renewal is so much worse and should be dropped. 18, the city should recognize that this is likely to join the list of top most hated items of city policy, along with sidewalk retrofits. 19, consider that the city encourages rain gardens for some stormwater runoff credit and at property owner effort and expense, but this policy penalizes property owners who want to enhance and improve the city-owned right-of-way terrace area for in front of their own property. 20, who is assigned to inspect these terrace gardens for compliance and for removal after November 15? 21, who is responsible to enforce these rules? Building inspectors, public works director, parks director, park supervisor, by contacting each property owner for compliance? 22, the city should consider for once an approach of less of rules, fees, permits, policy, regulation, inspection, enforcement, penalties, etc. 23, if approved, this should start small scale with small areas, small plantings, and test it out. Any questions?
That was very thorough. I may have a question about something you remarked, but as you're speaking, I thought of asking Scott, do we know why this is being proposed. What is the reason that Alders Maldonado and Allen have brought forth this proposal? No clue?
I can't read
I
your
didn't know it
mind.
was them. I didn't know that they
They may have
initiated.
received a request from a resident, possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope I didn't list the wrong Alders names, but I think that was in the packet here. Yeah, okay.
It's being introduced, yeah.
Yeah. And are there, I see Katie and Heidi. So Katie, if you will go ahead first and then Heidi from there.
I was going to say Heidi had her hand up first.
Oh, did she? All right, Heidi. First, off you go. Go ahead, Heidi.
Oh, it didn't matter. Thanks, Katie. So I guess I'm just a little confused. So it sounded, Patrick, so two questions. It sounded, Patrick, like initially you were against, but then many of your points indicated to me that you were for. So I guess I'm not really, or maybe you were playing devil's advocate. I don't know. I guess a lot of what you said made sense to me. My biggest concern, quite honestly, is safety. And I know it was mentioned as an item here in some of the memos, but I wonder, are kids going to be at greater risk with the traffic going by in some of these areas? And anyway, those were my 2 points. But Patrick, if you wouldn't mind clarifying for me, were you devil's advocate, or are you for or against?
Yeah, more devil's advocate. Because this is like my reaction to this program. It's very early stage of this, and as I read through it, 8 pages, 17 conditions and all this, I thought, this needs a whole lot more work. And then really, how much time do we want the staff to work on this? That was my first couple of points, and that was kind of the general idea of this. And then I got into more details, reacting to different things that I picked up from the 8 pages.
Okay. Anything else, Heidi, or? Okay, Katie?
No, sorry, I forgot to put my hand down. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
all right. Katie?
I just had a couple of comments. I do agree with Patrick. This seems like something where less regulation is almost better than more. Scott, I would strongly encourage you to leave this to Public Works. There is nothing about street terraces, street frontages that have anything to do with parks. I think that I would leave this up to Public Works Department. They're going to be the ones that if there's any work going on in the Public Works, along the street terraces, they're going to be the ones that are dealing with that. And I recognize we have a process in place. We'd be happy to share it with them and they could take it over. A couple other comments. I would make sure that there is wording in there that says the city is not liable for any damages. We're going to have snow plows that come up. They are going to cause damage to any plantings, anything else, any hardscape that gets put into these terraces. And we want to make sure that residents can't come back and say, hey, you gave me a permit and then your snowplow took out my new garden. I would want to be sure that the city is not required to remove or replace anything that was permitted. If we do have a public works project that comes through, we can give warning to the residents, but it is not going to be city or our hired contractor's responsibility to remove or replace anything that happens to be within the public right of way. And lastly, we do put a lot of salt down on roads. There are contaminants that come from cars, and having a vegetable garden directly up against the edge of the street is not necessarily the place that I would promote putting one. So hopefully nobody asks the city to come in and test our soil. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. It's a thought I had that I wanted to share too is that as part of what I was hearing from Patrick is describing what I imagine is a neighbor, a homeowner puts in some hostas and they come up every year and they keep them nice looking, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't want to have to pay a permit fee for something they've already been doing for X number of years. That's very low impact. But if there are scenarios where someone wants to put in a raised garden bed, then, this will go to tree advisory committee. They'll want to weigh in on how to protect trees. That's the one expense that's parks budget related is, well, developers initially are paying for trees, but trees that are replaced, that's park budget, correct? So tree advisory committee can lead the discussion on that. So there's a continuum of things people can do in a median, and some are very low impact. And I'd hate to see someone paying $30 a year or whatever for something they've been already doing and not causing a problem. But if there's a wish to create something that adds a lot of weight or excess watering, et cetera, that would affect the trees, or cultivating that it would affect the tree roots, then we've introduced a problem. So again, tree advisory can address that. But I also agree, in general, the majority, the right-of-way, is it called a right-of-way because there's stuff under there? And Public Works manages that stuff. So they're the ones that should be managing the program. I think that's going to be most relevant as time goes on. Do we have any other? Oh, Patrick, go ahead.
To a couple of points that Katie made. You're right. And I've had property in the past where it's close to the street, and I believe it says in here, without digging out the point, it says from the curb and then 4 feet in, which is the prime area for just loading snow and salt and sand onto it. It's the worst place to grow things. As far as the rules and everything, all those liability things that you questioned, is that in there? Yeah, I did read those things in here. That's why I figured the city attorney has been in on this already. Liability, make sure the city is covered for everything. Let's see. What else? Go on.
Also, again, to sort of agree with both Patrick and Katie about soil quality. And people can take their own risks, but I do recall reading a study years ago about the vegetable gardening close to major roadways. Now, not every roadway is a major roadway, but the amount of other pollutants that are in the soil are taken up into the vegetables. I don't know. I guess anyone can sue the city for anything they feel like suing the city for, but it might be tangentially a liability issue. I don't know if that's the case, but it would not be the first place I would put any vegetables, personally. Was there a comment, Chris? Did you have a comment? No? You
Yeah,
did?
actually.
Okay.
I guess I've kind of conflicting concerns. My main concern is about just any use in the right of way that would impact the street trees, because those are I view them as a pretty valuable city resource, not just monetarily, but for all sorts of reasons they're very valuable. So anybody, frankly, that doesn't know what they're doing goes digging around too much in there, or building a big old raised bed on top of the roots and adding soil on top of the roots, things like that could be damaging. So that's my main concern. However, in conflict with that, I think finding a use for, or a homeowner determining a use for the land, but in that right of way, there are so many more worthwhile things that can be done other than mowing Kentucky bluegrass once a week. So in a way, this idea really dovetails with a lot of the changes we've introduced into the upcoming update of the Parks and Open Space Plan, as far as maybe not at city expense, but reducing inputs and reducing the amount of turf and maintenance time and expenses and materials that go into that. So in a way, this does sort of align with what we've been trying to do as a city parks department, even though it's not parks land. So on one hand, I encourage an alternative use for this space. What those appropriate uses are might be a very long list of do's and don'ts that maybe we don't need or want to wade into. So yeah, not that I have an answer for anything, but I was just saying, would just raise the point that there is some merit to this idea, as well as the concerns that I think we all share.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, raised another idea that I have is, if somebody, to me, if I had a space like that, and I would just put down native seeds that are compatible with the tree that's there and just let that go. But that doesn't always work very well. People just think they can let whatever's growing there grow, and that's all right. And you then soon have a bed of invasives. What do you do when someone's let it go so far that it's full of wild parsnip and the people walking past are getting skin burns? So it's complicated is the point I'm making, and I think all of us are making. In theory, if somebody wants to do something that they would want to do a good job, but you have to learn a lot to do a good job, and is everyone willing to do that? And then when that doesn't happen, then there's conflict between the city having to come in and tell someone that what they're doing is the wrong thing. So Heidi, I see you have a remark to make.
Well, just one more point. I mean, in theory, I agree that this is a great idea. I mean, I think there are many things that you can do with the terraces aside from just have grass and mow them. But so assuming somebody does this and they plant a little garden or flowers or whatever, we should also consider if that owner sells their home, do they have an obligation to put that terrace back to what would be normal city standards, or is that not something we need to concern ourselves with? I mean, it's just a thought.
That's a good question, Heidi. Patrick?
Yes, that's actually in here. Again, not to dig through all these rules and everything, but yeah, it actually says if a house sells, apparently instantly the garden has to be removed. And I would counter that could be a selling point of the house. Who would want to destroy some landscaping in front of their house just as well as in their yard when they sell the thing? Well, the new owner is not going to like that. It enhances the property value for this to be there, but that's the way the wording is right now as we are reviewing it. I do agree that this is not a park as we usually oversee, but I very much appreciate that it is coming before us and, getting reviews and comments from 5 different groups before council gets it back again. So I like seeing this on our agenda just so that we can add our comments, because more voices will be more helpful. I keep forgetting what I'm going to say next.
Any other thoughts while Patrick is thinking?
I have a quick thought, and that's just that maybe I agree with what Katie said, that less is more. Perhaps maybe instead of creating a permit and outlining a laundry list of allowed and unallowed situations, maybe it's worthwhile considering just removing, whatever the ordinance is that prohibits, if there is an ordinance that prohibits certain use within the street terrace, maybe that's just reworked to provide homeowners a little bit more flexibility to work within the law without having to require a permit for everything. I don't know if that has any potential, but something that could maybe be looked at.
Thank you. Sarah?
I don't have much else to add. Just say that I appreciate everyone's feedback and agree that it just sounds like a risk and not within the park's purview. And I just don't support it. And I appreciate everybody's feedback, or comments that were provided, and agree with them.
Okay, on the referral sheet, it does say some residents have expressed interest in planting a garden in the terrace in front of their homes, and it kind of goes on from there, and then we got the pages in our packet and everything. It also says Fitchburg has adopted state statute 66.045, which does not permit use of the terrace for any private use without a special privilege permit. And then we get into this. This resolution provides criteria for such a permit. So the general idea here is prohibited until you come up with a permit process, and I guess Public Works, Bill Balke or such director of Public Works thinks, okay, it could add some merit, and maybe it could. This seems like a whole lot of work when a few people, I don't know how many, some residents have expressed an interest. It seems like this would be easier, a whole lot for everybody, if the people who ask, can we do this, and you refer it to an appropriate person, parks director, forestry person, somebody to say, okay, well, give me an idea, what do you want to do? And does that sound okay? Sort of, I usually don't really don't like this, but administrative approval, case by case, may be easier than going through all of this and all these permits. I don't like the idea of the fees. And absolutely, like the top point from everything that I thought of, grandfather in anything existing. I think you could drive around the city and find lots of places where there are plantings of some sort out in front. Now, again, I don't know if this applies to every single street in the city, because it said in somewhere in here, this applies to where there is a curb and gutter. Well, a whole lot of streets don't have that. So are they just totally exempt? Does that mean they can do what they want? Does it mean they cannot do anything? Unclear. But there's a lot of people, and I know this was related to the sidewalk thing. A lot of people did not want a sidewalk retrofit in front of their house because they had plantings that go all the way out to the street. They didn't want to remove their plantings or have them dug up to put a sidewalk in there. This is the same thing. If this policy goes into effect, does this mean that those people, two things, either they have to pay $30 a month to keep what they've already had for 50 years, $30 a year, or they have to dig it up and remove it because suddenly we have this policy? Both bad ideas.
I've got a lot of comments that I can
Yeah.
include on the referral page from the Park Commission. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's what they're requesting. So, and in fairness too, I suspect it's the alders received some requests from residents, so they, brought it to the city, and we're going through the process that we would go through with any kind of request that we would receive. So
Yeah.
it's the process.
Yeah. A danger I see to having it unregulated is that when you have a situation where something is put in place that is just not good, what mechanism do you have to have that homeowner remove what has occurred? Does that, what I'm saying, make some sense? Or if in my front yard, I put a bunch of rocks, a big rock garden,
Yeah, the way the ordinance currently is written, that you don't have the ability to do.
all right, well, that's a bad example then. I can't think of what that thing might be, but someone's going to find that thing and put it there, and then the city will, if we have if there is no process, and this will be for the council to figure out, it's just that if there's no process, then how do you straighten out a problem that occurs?
I think
Because right now you have this existing mechanism is there.
I think your example is perfectly good. Nobody mentioned rock garden, but somebody is going to think of that.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Which
when
is
Scott,
actually a pretty good use, I might say.
well, yeah, and I like them. I've got some, but I don't want my grandchild on a bicycle to fall on one, so close to a sidewalk. So that's the kind of a,
I would guess that mechanism would be similar to what there is now. So if there's currently no permitted use in the right of way, the city has some mechanism by removing anything placed there that's not
Right, okay.
allowed.
Right.
So then if we were to set criteria for what was allowed and not allowed, that follow-up would be the same, I would assume.
yeah, all right. Okay. Well, any other comments to add to Scott's list? So are we okay with just submitting the list of information? Because it's a lot. I mean, we're, nothing to vote on per se?
Yeah, and again, I think that's what the referral is to the Park Commission to, you know, they're establishing criteria and are interested in what each of the groups have to offer to the request, so.
That's actually what I would suggest. I mean, we could make a motion for anything we want to say, approve or nothing or whatever, or we could decide to take no action.
And I'll just provide all the comments that we received, and you'll ship me what you wrote down, and
Yes.
and we'll put that in the minutes and forward that on, and then the decision makers can go from there.
Okay,
Appreciate the discussion.
all right. We can move on then to 5D is Resolution R-11522, amending the 2022 park fee budget drinking fountain at the dog park. So a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
A second? Katie's going to second this. Katie seconded it. Okay.
I'll second.
All right, Scott.
And this is a request by the dog park advocates, and I will qualify that included in the overall Sunnyside Park master plan, there was a drinking fountain, if you would. So it's kind of a combination of city staff and the dog park advocates requesting this. And really the difference is after we continued to discuss it, the best way in order to accommodate the drinking fountain was to provide electricity to it and those kinds of things. So what you have before you is a resolution that authorizes the project to move forward with the Fitchburg Dog Park advocates making a contribution towards the towards the overall cost of the new amenity.
Any questions or comments? Patrick?
Yes, a few questions and comments. I would be looking forward to this drinking fountain for people and dogs to go ahead on here. But I have several questions and some notes. Scott, what was the well water test results that were done a couple of years ago?
They were good. The well's good.
How's the nitrates?
I don't recall what the.
How did they compare to McGaw Park Shelter when it had a well?
I can get that information for you, Patrick. I don't
Okay.
have that
All right.
at the tip of my tongue.
Okay. On the, let's see here. There's a memo in our packet, memo to Misty Dodge from Endel PRF, if you can see that page. The important thing right here, the second bullet point, I think you should reword this. You see the page? It says page 17, unless our packet has changed, which it probably has. It's your memo to Misty Dodge. Okay, second bullet point. Needs to change. It says power would come to the existing well from the, please insert street light cabinet to be specific. I believe that's what is in mind. I'll continue on in the sentence. On the corner of Irish and Lacey? No, not Lacey. That's a mile away. Fish hatchery. Okay. The next bullet point, I'm kind of question. Repairs would be likely to the pressure tank that is underground at the drinking fountain. Since it's going to be summer use, and I'm sure it would be, blown out and cleared of water and everything, I think the intention here is to replace the underground pressure tank with a new underground pressure tank. Wouldn't need to be underground. Also, I'll just ask you, has Joran verified that the voltage in the streetlight green pedestal cabinet over there has the right voltage? Because streetlights and water well pumps are different. I have a well pump.
I'd have to confirm that with him.
Okay, verify that the right voltage is there. Otherwise, this won't work.
Very good.
Okay. At the bottom of your same memo, you say park staff would suggest the sources of each fund 31550 come from the time-restricted Artisan Village, FIL. Now, Artisan, ARTISIAN,
Artesian, yeah.
On the resolution on the next page, it says artisan, Artisan, artisan versus artisan. Which one is correct?
I believe the resolution.
Okay, I would hope so, yeah. Also, just to note, in your agenda comments that you provide to us, you have some math in here. And it says the FDPA committed to pay $3,500 for the hand well pump and has already paid $2,040 to have the well tested, et cetera, et cetera. Well, actually, FDPA made a generous offer to pay an additional $7,000, but then you got some math there about $3,500 minus 2,041 plus 7,000 equals 8,450. It's really like FDPA has committed to pay $3,500 and then an additional 7,000. So I would add that 10,500 from FDPA is the way I would look at the math. That's in our agenda notes anyway, but it's like, give more credit to FDPA for the money contributed. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? So, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We passed that motion, and we have no other discussion action items in agenda item 6. And for communication on down, Scott will take it from here.
Thank you, Sue. I just wanted to communicate the Veterans Memorial Park letter of support was approved by the council. That was resolution 7622. I did include in your packet of information the projects that were approved by resolution 9922. This is the ARPA TID funding for 2022. So these are projects that we are currently in the throes of trying to get completed. I highlighted them. One is a drinking fountain at Hugo Jamestown, adjacent to the community gardens, and then the other one is the tennis courts repair at McKee. So those are immediate funding allocations that we receive from the ARPA TID funding. Resolution, I do need to make a correction on my comments for communication item number C for the hub.
Before you go to C.
Yep. Okay.
On the
Go ahead.
On the ARPA, yeah, it has a drinking fountain for Hugo Jamestown Park. What happened to the Belmar drinking fountain? And I know Julia is not available to ask, but do you know?
Well, and there were
lost
several projects that were included and then added to by the council, but those would be coming back individually for each year. These are just the ones for 2022. So I think that one is still, as I understand, maybe still in the mix. There's a couple other things that are still in the mix from the Park Commission.
So in other words, not necessarily 2022, but could be in 2023, 24, and
Correct.
such.
There's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made because, like I say, there was more requests than there were funds.
Right,
So,
a lot more.
but these are what were approved for 2022 this year.
Okay.
So we needed to get rolling on them.
Okay, and I know the council did act on this, and I can't cite, the whole schedule and the years and everything, but I know that was something that was desired in the past by Alder Dorothy Kraus, and
I will tell, yes. And
I asked that be added in for Belmar Park, and then I kind of lost track of what happened to it.
But I will tell you, it's going to be a push to try and get the tennis courts improved or fixed this year. So I don't know the reality of it. We probably are going to have to get it figured out this year, get it bid maybe in the fall, and then do it in the spring.
I have a comment on that.
I'm fully aware of your
You know what I'm going to say?
of your comments.
If you bought a post pounder of your own for anywhere from $500 up to $1,000 or $2,000 or something,
For a post pounder?
a post pounder, yes, I gave you the information some years ago. You could do this yourself, and then you could go pound the posts in again when they come out of the ground and work in other places.
Is that like pounding sand? Pounding posts?
Sometimes.
No, I was just. I was
Well, it could be
thinking,
cheaper than this bid to have a company do this one time, and then in a few years they have to do it again,
Well, isn't that the case? Yeah, yeah.
and you could use it anywhere.
So we can, so on to the hub. I did misspeak in that the Common Council did not approve the Park Commission and Healthy Neighborhoods recommendation. As you recall, Park Commission and Healthy Neighborhood included the covered hard court. The Common Council did not include the covered portion, so that, I misspoke on that one.
Yeah, I did note that in there, and I was gonna ask
The,
you about that.
are we good with that one?
So that was sort of disappointing to us that they took the whole roof off of the hub, off of the
Yeah.
open building.
Well, not the building itself.
Not the enclosed building, the open court, you
Yep,
call it?
Yep,
Okay.
they took that off.
Let me just ask a clarifying question about the open court. And, we turned down the ice skating rink, but as I understood it there, the floor of the open court area was going to be built sort of dished with edges at the side, which means without the ice skating refrigeration equipment, you were still gonna flood the floor and let it freeze in winter by cold, right?
We're gonna see if we can't still fabricate a rink in there with the hard surface. That's-
Right, I mean, it just means pour the cement so that it holds water in the center.
Well,
So the
cement will-
refrigeration equipment
will-
was the,
Yep.
whatever, $700,000 cost or something like that.
Well,
But this will still have an ice skating rink as long as
Well,
the cement is poured.
we're going to take a look at it. I'd love to have a skating rink, and it does make sense to, if you have a hard surface, as soon as the water will freeze, then
Right.
you're able to have a skating rink.
Right, I think that was the intention. So just wanted to check.
So then, are we good with that one? The seasonal park pay was increased to $17 per hour, so that was good. We currently have 3, and I know one of the 3 that are working there are trying to convince a buddy to sign up, to try and, so if anyone knows somebody, I think we're still looking for that 4th seasonal position. I did include.
I noticed this, somewhere in here, it says there's also a $500 signing
Correct.
bonus.
Correct.
That's quite a bit. I
It
mean,
is.
That works out at 17 an hour, that works out, I think, to like, what did I write down, 20? I wrote it down somewhere, whatever.
20-something.
Like
No,
4 days worth of paid
Well,
vacation days.
it's a extra hour, or extra dollar per hour for the summer. They're like $480 or 480 hour position.
Yeah, I did want to ask, this is for the whole especially for the $500 signing bonus, is there a minimum that somebody agrees to work, like 3 months for sure, not just 1 month and leave, or something like that?
Well, as I understand, you get 250 after a certain amount of time, and then 250 at the end, so.
Okay,
There's control there.
okay.
And then I did include some budget proposals that we're looking to consider. And actually, the Park Commission will recommend the budget in July. So I wanted to provide some thought or some insight on some of the things that we're considering for the operating budget in 2023. And that concludes
Question?
communication. Unless there's questions.
Operating budget, in recreation there, adding 2 summer seasonal staff to run a park program in Southdale Park, that's 2 additional on top of, you say we have 4?
No, those are we got 4 seasonal park maintenance. These are the recreational staff.
Oh,
These are the staff that works with Chad to run the recreational programs during the summer.
and how many is that?
They might have 5 or 6 or so.
Okay, and then an additional 2 for Southdale when
Yep.
we,
And
when we
the
get.
idea is to have 2 staff there, Monday through Friday, for because that's some of the things that the council and people are asking for is recreational programming in Southdale Park. So this is a method for us to provide that programming.
Okay, and in the next section, parks right there, it says, a couple things here. $5,000 for security cameras maintenance and repairs. What's that about?
security, we have security cameras
I
within
know.
the park system.
Hugo
so
Jamestown
this is-
and the splash pad
this
and the
is
McKee
for-
shelter.
Yep, this is for maintenance and repairs of that equipment.
What's broken on them?
I can provide you a report for that.
I would like to see that.
Very good.
Because they, cost a lot. I haven't seen them produce anything useful, and now it's 5,000 for repair of them. I kind of want to know what happened to them.
Sure.
Then additional 10,000 for fence repairs, currently budgeted for 5,000 at the McGaw field fences. This would be the baseball, softball fields.
Correct.
What kind of repair?
Well, actually, the way they're set up is the wire is on the outside instead of the inside, so we're switching it to the inside.
Really? Is that necessary?
Yeah, it is necessary. Because, well, if you think of it, when they run up against the fence, it's kind of on there with ties, so those ties give way. So if you have the fence on the inside, then the poles will
Okay,
prevent
so-
the fence posts from, or the wire from coming off the post.
Okay, so this proposal is to take the entire chain link fence off of all of the posts and move it to the inside of the post.
Correct. That's part
That
of it.
seems exorbitant.
That's part of it.
Why don't you just strap the fence onto the post better? With stronger wire. I mean, the only thing that I have noticed on there is the yellow caps, the thing when, these athletes want to go after the ball and jump over the 6-foot high fence, and then you have those yellow caps so they don't impale themselves. Some of the yellow caps have been lifted somewhat off of the top.
Yeah, and
all
that's
all you really need is this whatever tool that they use to install that in the first place is to, snap them down over the top rail to get that. That's the only thing that I saw wrong, but I don't agree with, moving the fence all the way to the inside of the posts. I think that's overdoing it. So I would question that. And I'll just go on the next one here. 325 training and staff development, adding 5,000 for CDL training for new staff. Why? Well, who needs CDL?
Yeah, the park maintenance people need CDLs to drive the plow trucks.
They don't do that already?
There's some of them that do and some of them that don't.
So this is to, what would you call it, train or certify additional people?
To have CDLs,
So
right?
some people of the park staff have CDL, some other ones don't, but to make them eligible to drive the plow trucks in winter, they would need CDL.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds reasonable then. Okay.
Okay, so we are all the way through operating budget with questions. Do we have any questions or comments about the staff reports? Patrick?
One here on Jordan's report, it says painting and rebuilding signs. This would be the park signs with the name of the park. That's still in progress?
It is, yes.
Okay.
It is, yep. As time allows.
Gosh, Chad was doing such a great job, Chad Siegel, of working on those in that unusual year.
And he wasn't able to get them all done.
Yeah, well, it's kind of too bad that it's still stretching out this long after, what was that, 3 years ago or something?
Yeah.
And he also has down here drinking fountain installs at Inclusive Playground, which I understand is in Oak Meadow. I presume that one's in, and at the pickleball court. So he's working on getting a drinking fountain and that water pipe at the pickleball court.
They're in the works, and then the water line is installed at the Quarry Hill Community Gardens also.
Okay.
Splash pad is open.
The splash pad was open for Memorial Day weekend, right? No?
No.
Oh, I thought something you put out said it was.
June 1 to August 31st.
Oh, okay, because somebody I know said they stopped in and they found it was not working, and I said, did you push the button? And they didn't know.
Yeah, it didn't. The button didn't work until Tuesday.
Yeah, I think, Scott, you'd said you'd hoped you might get it open sooner, but that was not the case.
Well, I think we were able to get it open Tuesday, which is May
see.
31st instead of June 1st.
Oh, of course, I got it,
Okay.
all right.
All right.
Other questions on any report? Future agenda items? I don't know if we're going to be able to come up with anything to talk about next.
Well, the budget, Stoner Prairie and Teen Center, so.
All right.
Could we, for sure, no matter what, have a Stoner Prairie update?
And I can't guarantee you that, no.
Well, the longer it stretches out between cycles of us seeing it and commenting on it, the longer the whole thing goes.
Yeah, our goal is to have it to you in July, so
Okay.
we'll work towards that goal.
But what I'm saying is, even if it's like not finished or decided or final or something like that, if we could, anytime that we could have another shot at it
Sure.
for our comment.
I think it'll be ready for July.
Okay.
Okay. And our next two meetings, July 7th, August 4th at 6 PM. Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
It's 7:17.
Who was the second? Was that Sarah? It was Sarah. Thank you. We are adjourned. Oh, in favor? I forget.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're always in it. We are adjourned.